Think about it. Every hiring decision is a choice that can make or break a team, a culture, and even an entire company. So how do we make the right choice? Hi, I'm Dr. Mickey, and welcome to Inside the Mind of Hiring. Here we'll uncover the psychology and strategy behind effective hiring. Because the right fit isn't just about skill or experience. It's about understanding people, their motivations, their strengths, and the shadows of their shortcomings. Together, we'll tackle the tough questions. How do we look beyond bias? How do we find the qualities that make people not just qualified hires, but the right hires? This is about identifying leaders who drive success, lift morale, and actualize a company's vision. Inside the Mind of Hiring starts now. Well, hello everybody. And hi, Dr. Pat. We're going to share with our audience today what's going on about our show, Inside the Mind of Hiring. And this particular episode, blind leaders and their self-defeating habits. Let me just say that blind leaders can create cultures that drive out top performance through bad attitudes and practices and self-defeating defense mechanisms. Very clinical, isn't that? Blind leaders, that is, too often compromise the core trust that is really important for engaging people and enabling their talents to flourish and synergize. Blind leaders too often lack the core principles that we talked about in the last episode of integrity, accountability, and servant leadership. And just to review, integrity relates to, of course, telling the truth and doing what you say you're going to do, but also doing what's right, not necessarily what's easy or comfortable. Accountability, as we broke down, relates to leaders that give 100% credit to everyone when there's a success, and they take 100% of the responsibility for failures or mistakes. And servant leaders more often do what's in the best interest of the team needs rather than their own. So what are some core examples in business and sports where blind leaders lose key talent and end up hurting themselves and their businesses or organizations? What are the blind spots, and how can leaders acknowledge and correct them before it's too late? Now, let's start with a real-world business example. There's a senior executive, and this is like a business school case. Senior executive Sarah lost key talent and stalled innovation, which is important in her organization, because she favored yes people and dismissed contrary views. This is a classic blind spot pattern that can diminish a good leader's impact even when they're commercially successful. So Dr. Pat, tell me about a business case that you're aware of. I know you got a few of those.
Yeah, I want to be really clear. There are true blind spots, and there is just stupidity. So I want to be very clear about this, because where I'm sitting right now, I'm looking up the butt of stupidity. Now, you and I did a show last time about the WNBA, and we're going to touch upon it today. But the most stupidest thing now that I've heard as of an hour ago, and it explains a lot about leadership, why at the end of the Aces game the other day were the coaches whispering each other's ear? Justine Passant traded? Are you kidding me? So what are we talking about? Is it really blind leadership? Or is it leadership with an agenda, having you think, Dr. Mickey, they're blind? Certainly in the cases of business I've worked with, especially at Belcor, and the Bell
Mhm.
system, where we all thought it was blind leadership when they decided to downsize people until they changed the rules and started to target people just a little bit before the pension, but kind of up there in years, that good luck trying to
Oh,
find a new job,
oh
people.
goodness, so
So we're like,
kind.
oh, they didn't know. Oh, blind?
Stupid.
Hear no evil, see no evil, see no evil, but you are evil.
Right. How do we pay all these people all that money?
Oh, you want here? Let me get you going on
Did
something
you
too.
hear? You mentioned the trade,
Oh,
and that
hello.
was that women's basketball, women
Yeah,
professional
yeah,
basketball.
yeah, yeah.
Well, you know,
But
Boston Celtics just traded Jaylen Brown to Philadelphia. Unbelievable trade.
rock on.
Well, I don't know. He got two first round draft picks and a later round draft pick, and
But here's the
he got a
thing.
key player that's very old. But
Well, are you saying a very old player, or like what are you saying?
well,
Okay,
well,
because
an old
but
but talented player,
an old but talented,
Paul
which sometimes
Paul
could be the
George.
key to leadership. You see, all of this chit chat about older players that I'm watching on content creators. I wish they would keep to this story and not just throw in a couple of things about people's age, because fine wine is aged, right?
Of
You wait
course,
for the right.
right?
But what is happening with leadership across the board, whether we're talking about sports or we're talking about business? You and I touched upon this not too long ago. And here, Dr. Mickey, is where we got to talk about blind leadership. I think they're not blind. I think they're scared. I think forget sports. Let's forget about the
Right.
WNBA for 5 seconds. AI has got everybody at the top scratching their heads and thinking it's a Terminator movie. With Schwarzenegger saying, I'll be back. I'll be back. Guess what? You're not going to be back because you're already behind the 8 ball. You're making silly decisions, which I can't call blind. You're replacing checkers at stores without figuring out that the customers just ain't ready for all that self-check craziness that doesn't discount your products the way it should.
Right. Oh, okay. Because you're not taking cashier time. That's interesting.
Well, but so Dr. Mickey, here's a question. Is it blind or is
Or
it,
is it stupid?
and I got to throw in a third one
Well,
because
you know something, Pat, to me,
ignorance is excusable. Ignorance can be excusable.
Yeah.
Ignorance.
Okay.
Ignorance is when you just don't know,
Right.
right? You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, ignorance has got me into college because I
Right.
just didn't know. If I'd have known what the academic system was to apply for a doctorate degree, oh, I don't know. I think I would have stayed on Capitol Hill in Seattle on my Harley Davidson.
Right.
But what have you seen? Do you actually see leadership that has these nighttime sleep blinders on? Or are we seeing something else? Because there's other things that could be going on, right? What do you see?
Well, I can give you I can give you another I can give you a sports example. Um, I don't know if you remember or heard of Donnie Nelson, who was the talented general manager of the Dallas Mavericks. Um, he was credited for acquiring uh, Dirk Nowitzki, who is no slouch, perennial all-star. And he was also credited for acquiring Luka Doncic, who's no slouch either. Um, but he was forced out, or he decided to resign amid a front office power struggle that involved an analytics person that was reportedly acting as like a shadow GM and gaining influence with ownership over personnel decisions. So this frustrated Nelson. Normally it would frustrate anybody. And because he wasn't able to control anymore, control the basketball operations and the related personnel decisions that he had before. So he was frustrated and left, either voluntary or involuntary, but not because he lacked talent. It was because of a leadership blind spot around how internal friction and competing authority can undermine a highly effective executive. In addition to that, that's a really weird scenario to me, because when I read about that, I just really feel that that's stupid. It's not, it's like, it's stupid that they didn't see that stuff, this analytics person, all of a sudden rises in credibility and competes with a really talented executive who has a track record for making really good decisions. And they let him, well, they forced him out, or he decided to quit and weaken the organization as a result. So in addition to that kind of stupidity or blind spots, whatever you want to call it, there's others too. And, one is failing to recognize key contributions, favoritism. And that was an example of favoritism. It was stupid. Confusing friction. When somebody causes a little friction, it doesn't mean that they're incompetent. It just means that a little friction revolves around them. And it could be because they're very competent. Squelching or dismissing healthy or important dissent. That's a fact. It's a blind spot, and it can cause people to leave. This is good. Failing to distinguish a person who is difficult to manage from a person that's too difficult to lose. Too difficult to lose. Talk about a blind spot or stupidity, some combination of both there. Well, I thought you might mention two of your favorite people, Dr. Pat.
Which
Carly
ones?
Fiorina and
Carly Fiorina.
Stephen Jobs. Stephen Jobs.
Well, I want to talk about Carly for a minute.
Okay.
So there's a couple of things that happens in the world. And I must say discrimination is no longer silent. And we can talk about that in another show. But I will tell you about Carly Fiorina. I mean, I don't get the whole Hewlett-Packard thing, except it's a family business. She ain't the family. You understand what I'm saying? She's not
I
the
understand
family.
what you're saying, but
it's not the family. It's like my mom said to me once. My mom loved me, my stepmom. But I remember her saying something to me, which I never forgot. She said, I love you as my child. And yet my blood children that I brought into this world have a special memory. And I understood that. But Carly, I mean, nobody came to her defense. Look at her record with HP. Come on now. I mean, look at the product she put out. So I'm going to put that aside because that's just stupidity. That's not ignorance, but that's something that happens in envy, and we're seeing it in the WNBA right now.
Right.
The other one is Steve Jobs. What do I want to call that? Envy, jealousy, and the guy at the top that creating everything over there. Let's fire him because what? You think he's what? Like a nut job?
Well, he caused some friction.
He caused some friction, right? Okay. And what did they have to do, Dr. Mickey? What did they have to do?
Well, they should have helped him.
You can't help Steve Jobs.
Cause more friction.
You know what that's like? That's like, oh, let me go help Einstein.
Oh, okay.
What?
Well, they should have enabled him to cause more friction.
They should have let him create. They should have let him be Steve Jobs. Right. Just like they should let Caitlin Clark be Caitlin Clark, and that's a whole nother game. Right. But the point is they had to bring him back.
Well, why did they bring him back? Because the organization became a lot weaker when he left.
Why? Because of what I call toxic root. Root is an acronym I use in leadership. But let's talk about leadership for a minute. You see, right before the show, my friend calls me and says, "Are you going to be talking about WNBA?" I said, not in this show. We're not going to. He said, my friend said, "You got to talk about it." I said, "Why?" They said, "Did you just see the Passant trade?" And I said, "Oh my God, now I understand the interaction between Stephanie White and Becky Harmon the other night. The Aces lost, right, to it." So I'm just backing up a little bit, and I'm trying to think, what is going on? What is going on? Well, the Indiana Fever trades Justine Passant to what? What is happening? What is going on in this? Okay, no counteroffer, nothing like that. But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about leadership for a minute, because there's not enough time. Leadership, Dr. Mickey, doesn't die because people make mistakes. I just want to be very clear about that. Lee Iacocca is another example. It doesn't die because people make mistakes. Leadership dies when truth becomes optional, courage becomes inconvenient, and trust becomes collateral damage.
Well said.
See, we're talking about examples where you could break it down. But there's also another thing to talk about, and you've seen this in companies you've worked in, and I've seen it.
Right.
Leadership rarely dies, rarely, in one dramatic moment. It dies in the thousands of small decisions no one thinks history will remember.
Or that are important.
But we don't remember them.
No.
No, we
No.
remember Churchill's decision, last stand.
Right.
But we don't remember how long it took for the United States to make a decision. What the heck? You had to be bombed? I
Right.
mean, these are things, when you step back, you look at the transformational moment. But transformational greatness, you see, transformational greatness doesn't change the game. It exposes the leadership around it. Transformational greatness of a Caitlin Clark, an Asia Wilson, I don't care who you want to pick out, a Michael Jordan, right? Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, I don't care who you talk about. What that does, it exposes the leadership around it. Now, what in the world do you think would have happened if they tried to shut the Babe up? Come on.
Well,
Come on. Come on.
Babe would have
He'd have taken the
either
bat. The Babe would have carried the bat and like took some people out.
yeah, right.
Dr.
Well,
Mickey, here's something you
he
deal with.
he was, from what I recall or remember about his story, he was pretty outspoken.
He was very outspoken.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I used to work with the woman, Nancy Brandt, who taught me a lot of things, but she'd say to me, "Girl, you better remember one thing, the squeaky wheel gets the grease." And I'm like, I don't even know what you're saying. But let me ask you this question, because you hire the C-suite people. You hire these
Well,
people.
I identify which ones I would hire.
Well, all right. Well, you're
Yeah,
influential.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, I am an influencer.
So let me ask you this question. My thought is the real test of leadership is not how you handle ordinary talent, right? It's what you do when extraordinary greatness disrupts everything.
Right, right. That's that is key. It takes a real talented leader to handle real talented people. Extraordinary people. You can't be an ordinary leader and handle extraordinary talent. It's probably not going to work. It's not. You have to be a great leader to handle great talent. There's no question about it. And what you can't do is undermine or diminish them. And this whole thing with the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark is a real study in leadership. I mean, we
Uh,
discussed this last week, and there was another occurrence that happened after our last episode that drives me nuts. But first, here's a series of blind spots, and you say a coach's series of decisions can add up and cause real problems if they're not the right decisions. So here's a coach that didn't give Caitlin Clark any props, none, for knocking down a winning shot in the last seconds of a game, nor did the coach give Caitlin Clark's teammate, Sophie Cunningham, any credit for being resourceful and going against a called play and feeding her the ball in that critical moment that she could make that shot. She really didn't do anything very much to protect Clark on the defensive side in a key game, another game, which caused her to foul out with 6 minutes plus left to go and only a 3-point lead. They ended up losing the game and a shot at the Commissioner's Cup. She also this coach hired an assistant coach, a guy. Ooh, it's good that she's not gender biased, but she hired a guy with no basketball experience that probably won't challenge her or doesn't challenge her. And to make it even better, sarcastic, she dismisses fan and media criticism. And there was this incident that happened after our last episode where the coach didn't rush the court and get into the refs' faces when Caitlin Clark was deliberately injured by an opposing player. And they didn't even call a foul. Didn't rush the court and get in the refs' faces. The league later indicated that, or decided that the player who instigated that foul, or that, it really was an assault, be suspended for 1 game. So the coach agrees with that in a news conference, but acknowledged that she didn't even witness the play. So you talk about blind leadership. That's really blind leadership.
Oh, wait. I pulled a clip of that. And I want to tell you what you see in the background of that clip. You see one player, I think it's Lexi Hall, jump out of her seat, stand up, and you see the entire coaching squad looking and not moving. Wait a minute now. There's a difference between blindness and pure hate. So here's the thing.
Wow. You're saying there's
I can't even call it stupidity.
You're almost saying there's contempt.
This is look, you and I have seen leadership band together to do things that are just not meant for the better good. The Passant trade today, I have got a lot to say about that. The Passant trade happens when organizations mistakes temporary relief for a visionary leadership. What? Well, I feel happy for her because she's going to go make some money now and she's going to get to play. Okay, good. I like it. But you don't trade the future because the present is jealous. Did we say that?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Bye, Steve Jobs.
Did you say jealous?
Jealous.
No.
Jealous.
Wow.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Look, you can't tell me that the Passant trade is a basketball decision when the real issue is whether leadership has the courage to lead transformational greatness. This whole thing with this, the most disruptive talent in the game has to leave because he cannot manage envy, resentment, ego, internal politics.
Right.
That's not a trade because there was no counteroffer to keep her.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. No.
That's an it's an institutional confession.
Right.
And through a toxic culture. You and I can talk about this. You know why? Even though we're not playing basketball, we have seen this over and over and over again.
We do see it over and over again. It's incumbent upon leaders, when a talented person leaves and the organization looks and acts weaker, the problem wasn't the person's style or their skill, for crying out loud. It's leadership's inability to manage that style and skill, that talent. If you lose a key player, it is important to take a hard look at yourself, check your defenses at the door, and make a positive change or adjustment, for crying out loud. I don't know
Look,
what, it seems like people with a lot of money and a lot of track record don't do that kind of stuff.
you've got a lot of issues in the WNBA game that are being, smoked out. You have a veneer of racism, if not something bigger. But here's the deal. Caitlin Clark did not create the cracks in women's basketball. She made them impossible to ignore.
I guess maybe that's the case. She's such a special talent. And they're treating her like, you know what? These NBA stars, superstars, men who were superstars when they played, they basically were appalled by what happened with that player's assault of her. That wasn't even acknowledged during the game by the coach. And it's like they've advised, at least one of them has advised Caitlin Clark to quit the WNBA and play in Europe to earn more money and get more respect. If you're hiring a leader, ensure that they have Dr. Pat 2020 vision. And
or be Phil Jackson and go implement a Zen model to manage Michael Jordan. Look, the Caitlin Clark effect is bigger than basketball. It is a live case study in what happens when transformational greatness enters a system that is not emotionally, culturally, or structurally ready for it.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know to what degree. I know we have to go, but to what degree is Caitlin Clark standing up for herself in this situation? I don't know. I have no idea.
She is.
Good.
She's standing up for herself because she's true to herself. See,
Good.
She's not going to ever be me talking like this, but I was never me. It wasn't until later in life.
Oh, that you became me or you.
Dr. Mickey, I watched atrocities that I go back in my memory bank and say, why did I let that happen?
Well, you learn from it, right, Dr. Pat?
Caitlin Clark represents a bigger picture. The 10, 11, 12-year-old girls that look up to her.
Sure.
She understands, if not clearly, that she's part of something that she cannot control and manage. But I'll tell you what she is. She will fight for the underdog the way she called out the way referees were being paid the other day. They're not. She said, make them employees and get them training.
Right.
That's her after being fist on the ground, Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, God. Yeah, good for her. Good for her, Dr. Pat.
Thank you, Dr. Mickey. We're good.
You got it.
We're time to check out.
Thank you. You have been listening to Inside the Mind of Hiring with me, Dr. Mickey Fineberg. Tune in the first and third Tuesday at 11 on Transformation Talk Radio to discover the psychology of making successful hiring decisions. In each episode, hiring managers and HR pros will learn how to leverage assessments and other key screening sources and avoid common pitfalls. Job seekers will gain insight into successfully presenting themselves. For more information on assessing people for mission-critical jobs and on career assessment and coaching, visit deltaconsultants.com and my LinkedIn profile. If you'd like to write me personally, it's Mickey, M-I-C-K-E-Y, at deltaconsultants.com.